There's something more terrifying than crime. It's a perfect disappearance. Imagine a star at the height of their career suddenly vanishes from the spotlight. Cars are towed away in the night, houses are ransacked, and a crime scene is found, but it's completely silent. Public opinion is chilled not by what the police find, but by what they cannot find. No conclusive evidence, no explanation. For months on end, the only thing that remains is un silence drama, where those involved hold their breath in unison as they act. What if these gaps aren't coincidences, but a deliberate scheme orchestrated by some powerful force? Tonight, let's forget the surface. We'll uncover the hidden corners buried in the shadows. Chapter 1: The Silent Timeline. Have you ever wondered how long a perfect concealment can last? The answer doesn't lie in the physical evidence, it lies in the timeline. April 22, 232025. A series of fragmented messages, an argument, a moment locked. And then, the phone freezes, goes dead. Then came a chilling silence. A peaceful drama unfolded smoothly for months. Then suddenly, September 9th. The show continued with the lights on, as usual. September 16th. The identity of Celeste has been officially confirmed. September 17th. The Hollywood Hills mansion was searched. September 19th. The entire tour was canceled. And then, silence. Only lifeless streams of data remained, a strange smell, a Tesla. Ultimately, who knew what and when did they find out? If the truth started in April, why did everything only fall apart in September? Chapter 2: The Missing Core Evidence. In every crime scene reconstruction, there is always a mechanical piece that determines the entire event. Don't think of it as an abstract concept. Think of it as a concrete physical mass, a metal bar with a beveled edge, a dented structure, or a surface bearing the marks of extreme friction. It is not just an inanimate object, but the most primitive form of map. It deciphers the angle of impact, calculates the force of the collision, and locks onto layers of irrefutable biological data. It is the absolute boundary where all verbal justification must surrender to the laws of physics. But in the midst of this shocking event, we're encountering a visual blind spot. Where is that core object? Look directly at the structure of the sequence of events and ask yourself, what should have existed in a physical form but was instead completely wiped out? The disappearance of this physical piece of evidence not only created a dead end for the investigation team, but it also shattered the entire logical axis of the inquiry. Without the original object to match the clues left at the scene, those in charge would be left with no choice but to ask who is behind this. They will be pressed with the question: if this absence was staged, how was it erased? And when the word "how" remains a gap in the timeline, the entire foundation of the unfolding scenario begins to crumble. Even system logs, location coordinates, or data logs become orphaned without this centralizing evidence. We are often drawn to what we can see, touch, and see under a light. But sometimes the thing that has the power to turn the tables doesn't lie in the exposed evidence. And that is physical white space and what it left behind, a chasm deep enough to swallow up any testimony. Chapter 3: The Person Who Stood Still. There's a hidden detail within this entire dossier that truly suffocates the atmosphere. The crux of the matter doesn't lie in the allegations of wrongdoing. It lies in a brief but chilling description. An individual is said to simply stand there while the life force of the person opposite them drains away. Those words carry immense weight because they don't simply depict a physical moment. They portray a psychological state twisted to an extreme degree. Imagine this scenario: an unreal calm. No emergency calls were made. No attempt at salvage of the situation was made. Not a single sound of panic broke the silence. But logical thinking will force us to stop right here and ask a more incisive question. How could they know that for sure? On what basis did investigators reconstruct that eerie silence? Was it a security camera with a blind spot, an anonymous witness, system logs, heartbeats, or GPS data extracted from a smart wearable device? Or was it just a reverse-engineered deduction pieced together from the timeline? If that detail about standing still were merely a logical inference, the legal team would undoubtedly find ways to tear this argument apart and create doubt. But let's consider the second scenario. What if this isn't just speculation at all? That would mean there's a piece of authentic data, a piece of destructive technological evidence that has never been released to the media. A brief description, but it stifles all common sense. Twisted, calm. That moment alone was enough to create a nightmare. But the fact that a third eye witnessed and recorded that silence without our knowledge, That's what truly froze the temperature in this room. That message wasn't originally intended for communication. It was sent solely to set the scene. Chapter 4. The message that wasn't a message. Smartphones are silent witnesses. They store data that doesn't lie, but they also never speak up to explain themselves. A single isolated text message can create a visual shock that deceives the masses. But if you bring to light the 10 messages immediately preceding it, the picture can be completely reversed. What makes timeline reconstruction experts hesitate is the ambiguity. What is the true context behind that string of characters? At the analytical table, no one is foolish enough to judge based on a single word. What they dissect is rhythm. They scrutinized every data stream to uncover psychological vulnerabilities. Who initiated the conflict? Who used silence to evade responsibility? And who is subtly creating fabricated data to establish a safe cover? The crucial point that shakes all logic lies here. If a message is intentionally sent immediately after, the moment the other person arrives at the fateful meeting point, its nature has completely changed. That message wasn't originally intended for communication. It was sent. It's just for setting the scene. And if anyone thinks that the act of deleting is enough to bury the truth, they are mistaken. People can forget. Witnesses can be afraid. Equipment can be tampered with. But servers don't know how to negotiate. Metadata doesn't tell a story. It has a timestamp. The content in this video is for informational and reference purposes only. Although it has been cross-referenced with reputable sources, some details may have changed or may not be entirely accurate. Chapter 5. The Silent Witnesses. In every tumultuous event, we often become so focused on the eye of the storm that we forget a crucial question: who is truly controlling the narrative? The nature of every crisis always involves three scenarios: what people want you to see, what people want to hide, and what naive public opinion thinks it understands. But for those who decipher timelines, they aren't distracted by the surface. What they put straight under the microscope is post-event behavior. Look at the moving map. Who is silent? Who else shows up? Who canceled the schedule? Who disappeared from the media? And who benefits most if the story is kept in the shadows? If someone casually walks onto the stage with a microphone in hand as darkness is falling, that's not a judgment. It's a data point. If a massive tour is canceled, just as the identity of a key individual is confirmed, that continues to be a data point. If, as months pass, the only thing that remains is a thick, hazy fog, then that very haze is an undeniable, chilling signal. In true crime, sometimes the confession doesn't come from the mouth. It lies in the subsequent behavior. Chapter 6. Ghost Signals. In the world of data investigation, a vehicle is never simply a metal machine, especially when we talk about a Tesla, an intelligent entity equipped with a vast array of sensors, GPS navigation, and log data. It's essentially a black box containing all sorts of secrets. Try piecing together these isolated data points: a high-tech car, a closed garage space, an inexplicable hovering anomaly, a desolate vehicle impoundment lot, and a twisted timeline that stretches on for weeks. At this point, the situation has officially shifted. We've moved beyond the emotional shock phase to the logical restructuring phase. Because if the sensational theories circulating are true, a massive operational challenge will arise. Does a single individual have the ability, time, and composure to completely orchestrate the entire situation on their own? Theoretically, it's possible. But in the field of event sequence analysis, experts never bet on possibly. They don't believe in surreal scenarios. They believe in human variables. And that's when the noose begins to tighten with devastating questions. Who is granted access to that private space? Who witnessed the condition of the machine firsthand before it was sealed? Who gets to hear the flimsy justifications for the air quality anomalies? Who nodded in agreement? Who began to have doubts? And most importantly, who chose to swallow the truth in order to maintain silence? You see, in a multi-layered story, someone who holds the truth doesn't necessarily have to be the one directly initiating the event to become a crucial piece of the puzzle. There are people who weren't involved at the moment the event broke out, but they know every detail of the subsequent cleanup. In behavioral science, this is called the gray area. And history has proven that the gray area is always where the perfect facade begins to crack. Tesla can save the time the doors were opened, the vehicle's location, charging status, route camera and sensor data, and driving history. Chapter 7. Who still knows? In any traumatic event, a single individual can never create a perfect concealment on their own. That eerie silence is always wrapped in many layers of interwoven cocoons. According to current data, David is at the center of the storm. He is the sole target, bearing the brunt of the unfolding events. But a huge question remains unanswered, relentlessly pounding in the minds of timeline analysts. Does this painting only have a single color? Any behavioral expert will not stop at the surface. They will begin to shine a light on the dark web surrounding it. Has anyone inadvertently or intentionally helped create logical blind spots? Does anyone know more than what they've said? Has anyone ever seen something unusual but chose to remain silent? Does anyone possess a piece of data large enough to alter the entire timeline? In the art of reconstructing the truth, an internal link that decides to cooperate can be the perfect lifeline to seal all loopholes. However, this is also a fatal weakness, because immediately, the crisis management team on the other side of the conflict will counterattack and target this person's psychology. Skeptical questions will be implanted in the public's mind. What were you promised in exchange for speaking out? Are you telling the truth, or are you just panicking and trying to save your own position? Are you perhaps subtly trying to dump all the mud on the most influential person in this room? At that very moment, the nature of the situation took a completely different turn. It was no longer simply a battle of lifeless data points. It transformed into a life-or-death psychological game of trust. And at the negotiating table of truth, even the sharpest piece of information enhanced by technology can shatter into 100 pieces if the person holding it shows even a moment of hesitation. But a much larger shadow still looms over this whole affair. A risk that none of those involved dare name directly. Will this expose be escalated to a level of intense scrutiny beyond the boundaries of normal handling? Data leaks have begun to reveal hidden information streams from iCloud storage hardware, and especially files that are believed to have crossed the most serious sensitive lines. The involvement of large-scale cybersecurity systems is no longer a hypothetical scenario to be debated, but a scenario that is taking shape. Every inference at this stage must be measured with extreme caution. Not every stream of raw data will automatically determine the outcome, but the digital world possesses a cruel characteristic. It never forgets. Human memory can be manipulated, explanations can be distorted, but system logs are completely impersonal and absolutely precise. In the art of timeline reconstruction, the breakthrough often doesn't lie in the eye of the storm. It lurks in an oasis of perception, a hidden sliver of data at the edge of time, seemingly harmless, but the key to turning the entire game around. Because data knows no fear, it is non-negotiable. He never forgot. A physical device can be crushed. A message can be permanently erased from a screen. But metadata, the layer of information hidden deep beneath the surface, always leaves behind ghosts: time, location, journey, sequence of operations, and every connection point. It locks onto every coordinate lurking in the shadows. Sometimes the most shocking truth isn't found in a testimony. It was found in a forgotten timestamp. Within those tens of terabytes of cold, untouched space, lies buried something powerful enough to shatter the narrative we thought we knew so well. Seven shattered pieces, 7 blind spots hanging in midair. There was no concrete evidence to define the event. No explanation for the chilling moment of freezing. No verification of the most sensitive personal ties. No complete context for the fragmented string of messages. No excuse for the suffocating silence. No one could quantify the limits of the understanding of those involved. And absolutely, no one dared to predict the extent of the massive surveillance that was about to descend. Standing alone, each of these blind spots is enough to send chills down your spine. But when placed side by side, they don't align in a logical straight line. They intertwine to form an inescapable psychological labyrinth. And if this massive chain of events truly holds a key, perhaps it doesn't lie in the visual shocks exposed on the surface. It will be coiled within the smallest piece of data, a forgotten timestamp, a buried message, a glimpse from the gray area, or a technological device that has yet to utter its final farewell. If you were in charge of deciphering this entire chain of events, which door would you choose to break first? A. The core evidence has vanished. B. The hidden side of text messages. C. The Tesla's data black box. D. The link is silent in the gray area. Leave just one letter in the comments. And if you're forming a more chilling scenario in your head, write down just one sentence. Because as the curtain closes on this event, the most haunting question will never be who started it. Rather, it will be, right now, who else is still doing it hidden in the system's blind spots? Is he holding on to the crucial piece that will bring down the entire game?